I always believed my marriage was perfect. Jack was the husband I had always wanted, and our life together was a smooth, comfortable journey. My sister-in-law, Chloe's engagement party, was meant to be a double blessing for our family. I had prepared everything to near perfection until that afternoon, when my eyes caught a reflection in a mirror at the most exclusive boutique on Madison Avenue. The reflection of my husband, Jack, holding another woman. For everyone else, my life was a flawless portrait. My name is Isabella. At 35, I had built everything from the ground up. A respected management consulting firm, a modern minimalist townhouse on the Upper East Side, and a 10-year marriage to Jack. Jack was the kind of man everyone loved. He was charismatic, well-spoken, and had a smile that could disarm the most hostile boardroom. He managed the North American operations for one of the subsidiaries of the group I had founded. I gave him the position not because he was my husband, but because I believed he was competent. At least, I used to think so. I was the strategist behind the scenes. Jack was the charming public face. We were the perfect team. Or so I always told myself. That morning, our house was busier than usual. Jack's only sister, Chloe, was getting engaged that weekend. Chloe was a sweet girl. At just 26, she was a bit naive, but had a pure heart. I loved her like my own sister. After their mother passed away 5 years ago, Jack and I had become her unofficial guardians, and now she was about to start a new life. I was standing at the dining room island, tablet in one hand, a mug of strong black coffee in the other. My eyes scanned a seemingly endless to-do list, confirmed the catering, the VIP guest list, the family's outfits. "Isabella?" Chloe's voice crackled through the phone. I put her on speaker. "I'm so nervous." I managed a small smile. "Calm down, Chloe. Everything is under control. You just need to show up and look beautiful." "It's not that," she whined. "It's my future mother-in-law, Mrs. Victoria Beaumont." Ah, Victoria. The woman who was about to become Chloe's mother-in-law. Chloe's fiancé, Matthew, was Victoria's only son. Matthew was a good kid, polite, hardworking, and seemed to genuinely love Chloe, but his mother was a different story. I had never met her in person, our packed schedules never aligned, but her reputation preceded her. Victoria Beaumont was an Upper East Side socialite, the widow of a real estate tycoon. Her connections included city officials and the CEOs of major corporations. Her photos were often splashed across the pages of Town and Country and Vogue, always impeccably dressed, adorned with dazzling jewelry. "What about her?" I asked, signaling our housekeeper to top off my coffee. "She's intimidating, Isabella. So glamorous. Yesterday, out of the blue, she sent me a handbag as a gift. I looked it up online. The price could cover a down payment on a condo. I'm scared. Scared of messing up, of looking like some small-town girl in front of her," Chloe said. I sighed. "Chloe, you're not marrying the mother, you're marrying Matthew. What's important is that he loves you. As for Mrs. Beaumont, just think of her as a bonus feature. Be your usual polite self. You're a wonderful girl. There's no reason to lose your confidence." "Yeah, you're right, sis. Thanks. You always know how to calm me down." "Anytime. Now go focus on your spa day. Don't get stressed, or your makeup won't set right," I teased. I hung up and glanced back at my tablet. Victoria Beaumont. I was a little curious. Jack said he had met her a few times at informal family gatherings. "She's an interesting woman, Isabella. Very influential," he had told me a few weeks ago. Jack came downstairs, impeccably dressed in a crisp blue shirt. The scent of his expensive cologne, a mix of oud and citrus, filled the air. He kissed the top of my head. "Morning, honey. You look busy." "Just making sure everything is perfect for Chloe's event," I said. "You didn't forget we have the joint family dinner with Matthew and his mother the day after tomorrow, right?" Jack seemed to tense for a split second. "Oh, right. Of course I remember. The dinner at that place on Park Avenue. That's the one," I confirmed. "You don't have other plans, do you?" "Nope, schedule's clear," he said quickly, grabbing a piece of toast. His eyes were glued to his phone. "I'll eat in the car. I have a critical morning meeting, a new investor." "An investor?" I raised an eyebrow. "The one you mentioned last week?" Yes, the potential is huge. If this goes through, our company's expansion could double next year. His eyes were shining, but the gleam felt different somehow, forced. I nodded. All right. Drive safe. Don't skip lunch. You're the best wife, he said. He kissed me again, this time on the cheek, and hurried out. I paused for a moment. 10 years of marriage. We were a well-oiled machine, everything running smoothly. But that morning something felt off, like a tiny grain of sand had gotten into the gears. Jack seemed a little distant. I shook the thought away. Maybe I was just tired, stressed from organizing this huge party. Jack must be stressed about the new investor too. It was only natural. I refocused on my work. I contacted the event planner, confirmed the schedule, and called the designer to ensure both Chloe's dress and my own were ready. "Mrs. Sterling, your gown is ready for pickup," said the voice on the other end. But Miss Chloe's party dress had a small alteration on the shoulder. "It won't be ready until late this afternoon. Would you like us to courier it over?" I thought for a moment. This designer was a favorite of the city's elite. Her boutique was inside Bergdorf Goodman. I didn't want the slightest thing to be wrong with Chloe's dress. "It's all right," I decided. "I'll pick it up myself this afternoon. I have some errands in that area anyway." "Of course, Mrs. Sterling. We'll be waiting for you." I hung up. At least one thing was settled. I would get the dress myself to ensure everything was perfect. Perfection. It was what I always clung to in my business, my life, and my marriage. I didn't know that my obsession with perfection would lead me to discover the biggest flaw in my life that very afternoon. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of video conferences, my mind completely absorbed by numbers and projections. I forgot the little anxiety I felt in the morning. I forgot the strange look in Jack's eyes. I focused on what I could control. Around 4 p.m., I wrapped up my work. I changed into a simple but elegant silk blouse and comfortable trousers, grabbed my purse, and headed out. The drive to the luxury department store was smooth. The New York air that afternoon was warm, but my car's AC worked perfectly. I had classical music playing softly, trying to relax my mind before diving back into party matters. I had no idea that in an hour, my orderly world would be shattered. Bergdorf Goodman was the definition of luxury. Polished marble floors reflected the light from crystal chandeliers. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of expensive perfume. A soft jazz melody played in the background, accompanying the footsteps of shoppers carrying luxury brand bags. This was my world, familiar and comfortable. I went straight to the floor with my regular designer's boutique. The staff greeted me by name. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Sterling. The gowns are ready." "Yours and Miss Chloe's party dress," an associate said, showing me 2 black garment bags. I had her open them. I had to check myself. Chloe's dress, a shimmering silver sequin number, hung beautifully. I checked the seams, especially the newly fixed shoulder. Perfect. Flawless. "Thank you." "Please wrap them up well," I said. After paying and leaving with the 2 garment bags, I felt a slight sense of relief. One more difficult task completed. I checked my watch. It was just past 5 p.m. Jack wouldn't be home until late if the investor meeting went well. I decided to get a coffee before heading home. I didn't want to rush. I needed a moment of peace. I took the escalator down to the ground floor. My favorite coffee bar was near the main lobby, but to get there, I had to pass a wide central atrium. On one side was an exclusive VIP lounge, a place reserved for premium credit card holders or special guests. Its walls weren't solid, just demarcated by translucent glass panels with artistic gold frames and a few large marble pillars. I walked leisurely, the heavy garment bags dragging slightly. That's when I caught a silhouette out of the corner of my eye, through the gap between 2 pillars, inside the lounge. A silhouette I knew too well. His posture, the way he tilted his head, his sturdy shoulders. It was Jack. My heart beat a little faster. Jack said he had a meeting with an important investor. Perhaps the meeting was in that lounge. It made sense. It was a private, comfortable place for business. I slowed my pace, a little curious to see who this important investor was, but he wasn't sitting across from someone at a meeting table. He was standing behind a burgundy velvet sofa. On that sofa sat a woman. Her back was to me. All I could see was a perfectly coiffed modern brunette updo. And Jack wasn't giving a presentation. He was leaning over. His arms were wrapped around the woman's shoulders from behind. A tender, possessive embrace. Then I saw him lower his head and kiss the woman's neck. Time seemed to stop. The jazz music, the footsteps, everything faded away. The only thing left was the sound of my own heart, suddenly thumping loudly in my ears. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands holding the garment bags turned ice cold. It felt like a stone had been dropped into my stomach. My breath caught in my throat. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe it was someone who just looked like him. But I knew the scent of the cologne he wore. I knew the watch on his wrist. It was Jack, my husband. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I couldn't even move. My body was frozen. My first instinct was to run, but a stronger, second instinct took over, the instinct of a businesswoman used to gathering data before acting. I took 2 steps back and hid behind a large cold marble pillar. I was safe, out of sight. But I could still see them clearly. Just then, the woman laughed. Her laugh was crisp, confident, and arrogant. She tilted her head up, turning her face slightly to respond to Jack's kiss. And then I saw her face, a face I had seen often on my tablet screen for days while looking up outfit references. The same face Chloe had shown me from her social media account. Manicured cheekbones, sharp eye makeup, perfectly lined lips. It was Victoria Beaumont, Chloe's future mother-in-law, our family's future in-law. A wave of nausea rose in my throat. This wasn't just an affair, this was betrayal on the most disgusting level. He wasn't just betraying me, he was betraying his own sister. He was playing a dangerous game with the family that was about to become part of ours. The sharp pain from before transformed in seconds. It solidified into a block of cold, sharp ice, rage. But not an explosive rage. This was a quiet, calculated rage. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from adrenaline. In an almost automatic motion, I reached into my purse and took out my phone. I didn't care if anyone saw me hiding behind a pillar like a thief. I opened the camera. I made sure the silent shutter mode was on. I held my breath. I leaned out slightly. Click. The photo was a bit blurry. Jack resting his chin on Victoria's shoulder. I focused, zoomed in a little. Click. Their faces were clearer. Victoria had a triumphant smile. One of her hands was holding Jack's, which rested on her chest. Click. Jack kissing her on the temple. It still wasn't enough. Photos could be doctored, denied. I switched the camera mode. Video. I pressed record. I recorded for 30 seconds. The longest 30 seconds of my life. I recorded their laughter. The way Jack whispered something in her ear. The way Victoria caressed my husband's jawline. I put the phone back in my purse. My hands were steady now. My mind was clear, crystal clear. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to make a scene in Bergdorf's. That was tacky. It wasn't my style. Making a scene meant I had lost. Slowly, I backed away from the pillar. Then I turned and walked quickly towards the exit. I didn't look back. I strode through the lobby, past the automatic glass doors, and into the underground parking garage. The air in the garage was muggy and hot, a stark contrast to the cool air inside. I got into my car and placed the garment bags on the passenger seat. I sat motionless behind the wheel for 5 minutes. I didn't cry. I just stared at the concrete wall in front of me. My mind was racing, strategizing, meeting an investor. Such a cliché lie. How long had this been going on? Did Chloe know? Did Matthew know? Was this why Victoria gave Chloe an expensive bag? Guilt? Or just a way to flaunt her power? The engagement party. Everyone would be there this weekend. Jack's family, Victoria's family. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes were burning. They took me for a fool. They thought I was the docile wife, busy with household matters and my little business. My husband, Jack, thought he could betray me right under my nose. The socialite, Victoria, thought she could steal my husband while marrying her son into my family. They were dead wrong. I started the car. The engine let out a low growl. This was no longer about a broken marriage. This was about pride. It was about justice. I would let this engagement party happen. I would let them enjoy their charade. I would smile. I would be Isabella, the perfect wife and sister-in-law. But behind that smile, I would be planning their downfall. Piece by piece, I would take away everything I ever gave Jack, and I would make Victoria lose the social status she was so proud of. I would use this proof, but not now. I would use it at the most opportune moment, the moment that would be most painful for them. I reversed the car and drove out of the parking garage, into the bustling city streets. My mask was perfectly back in place. I arrived home as the sky began to darken. Our townhouse was empty and silent, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just erupted in my head. I carefully placed the garment bags in the living room, as if they were the most precious objects in the world. For a moment, I stood motionless in the middle of the room. I could feel the tremor in my hands again. It was no longer the tremor of rage, but the tremor of shock. I wanted to grab the nearest vase and smash it, to scream, to cry, but I didn't. Winners never lose control, and I, Isabella Sterling, was going to win this battle. My first move was security. I went into my home office, a soundproofed room I had built for important meetings. I locked the door. I turned on my computer, my hands steady now. I transferred the video and photos from my phone to an encrypted USB drive. Then I uploaded them to a secure cloud storage service I had set up under a pseudonym, paid for with a virtual credit card. After ensuring the copies were safe in 2 places, I deleted the original files from my phone's gallery. I even deleted them from the recently deleted folder. No trace could be left. Job done. I turned off the computer. Then I walked to the en-suite bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale. My eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now looked hollow and hurt. This was not the face of a winner. It was the face of a victim. I hated what I saw. I splashed cold water on my face again and again, as if I could wash the image of Jack and Victoria from my memory. "Smile," I whispered to my reflection. I tried. The result was a pathetic grimace. "You have to do better," I told myself. I took a deep breath. I thought about my business. I thought about successful presentations. I thought about the multi-million-dollar deals I had closed. I focused my mind on victory. I tried again. This time, the smile formed faint, controlled but convincing. My eyes regained their focus. The pain hadn't vanished, but I had shoved it into the deepest part of my mind, into an iron box. I locked it in there. Now, I was ready. I left my office and became Isabella the wife again. I checked on dinner preparations. Even though I knew Jack would claim he'd already eaten out, I drew a hot bath in our master bedroom. I changed into a comfortable silk pajama set. I sat on the living room sofa and turned on the TV, but I didn't watch it. I waited. Around 11 p.m., I heard his car pull into the garage. The front door opened. "Honey? Still up?" Jack's voice sounded tired. I turned, displaying the rehearsed smile. "Waiting for you. How was the meeting?" He walked over to me, sighing heavily as he loosened his tie. He sat down beside me, but not too close. "Exhausting. Really draining. Those investors are tough, but I think we're almost there." "Investors?" I asked in my usual tone. "The ones from Singapore?" He looked startled for a moment. "No, these are new ones, from Chicago. The potential is massive. I can't say much yet, but this is big, Isabella. Really big." He was lying, so smoothly. I could see the lie in his eyes as they avoided mine. He looked tired, all right. "Of course, having an affair must be exhausting. You must be wiped out," I said softly. I got up and took his briefcase. "Have you had dinner? I saved your favorite seafood chowder for you." "Ah, I ate during the meeting just now," he said quickly. "But thanks, honey. You're the most thoughtful." He stroked my cheek. His touch, which once always comforted me, now felt cold and disgusting. I had to resist the urge to pull away. I smiled. "The hot bath is ready. Go take a shower. I'll make you some hot ginger tea," I said as he trudged towards the bedroom. I watched him go. His back, which I used to find so strong, now looked like a coward's. I made the ginger tea. When he came out of the shower looking refreshed, I handed it to him. We sat in silence for a moment, so I started. My voice was light. I picked up Chloe's dress earlier. It's gorgeous. I'm even more excited for the engagement party now. Yeah, Jack said, sipping his tea. Chloe will love it. It also got me thinking about our future in-law, I continued, watching his face closely. Victoria. Even though I haven't met her in person, from Chloe's stories and the photos, she seems like an incredible woman, don't you think? Very classy. Jack's jaw tensed slightly, so slightly, it was almost imperceptible, but I saw it. Yes, she's a very influential woman. Jack chose his words carefully. She's professional and has a lot of connections. Matthew is lucky to have a mother like her, and Chloe is lucky to be marrying into that family. Oh, I see. I feigned interest, so it'll be good for Matthew's business. I heard his startup is booming. This time, Jack looked at me. There was a strange glint in his eyes. Caution or pride? Of course. Victoria is very supportive of her son. She has a sharp business sense, he said. Like you, I complimented him. You have a sharp sense for that new investor, don't you? He smiled. A fake smile in response to my fake smile. Of course. We'll see. He finished his tea and stood up. I'm really tired, Isabella. I'm going to bed. Sure, get some rest. He kissed my forehead, a bland kiss that felt like poison. Then he went into the bedroom. I was left alone on the sofa in the silence. This night of hypocrisy was just beginning. I heard his steady breathing from the bedroom. After making sure he was sound asleep, I got up. I didn't go to our bedroom. I went back to my office. I locked the door. I sat in my comfortable chair. I wasn't going to sleep tonight. My mind was at work. The video and photos were proof of emotional and physical betrayal. It was enough for a divorce, but it wasn't enough to destroy them. It wasn't enough to pay for this pain. Victoria was a socialite. Status was everything to her. Jack was an executive. Reputation was everything to him. I had to attack their weakest point. And Jack had just given me a clue. New investors, business sense. I remembered Jack complaining about the funding issues for Matthew's business a few months ago. Poor Matt, he needs a fresh capital injection, he had said then. And now, suddenly, Matthew's business was booming, and Jack had a mysterious new investor. A terrible suspicion began to form. I opened my laptop. I didn't search the internet. I opened my secret contact list, a list of names I only used for business emergencies, lawyers, forensic accountants, and a private investigator. His name was Frank. He was the best in his field, expensive, but discreet, and the results were always accurate. I'd used his services once to vet a potential business partner who seemed too good to be true. Frank had saved me from a major loss. I picked up my second phone, a burner phone I kept just for sensitive communications. I typed a short, encrypted message to Frank. Frank, it's Isabella. Need your help. Top priority, maximum discretion. Call me on this number at 9 a.m. sharp, not a minute sooner or later. I sent the message. Then I leaned back in my chair. The cold air from the AC prickled my skin, but I didn't feel it. A fire had already started burning inside me. Jack might be dreaming peacefully in our bedroom, perhaps dreaming of Victoria, but I, in my office, was planning a nightmare for them both. At 9 a.m., exactly as the clock ticked over, my burner phone rang. The screen showed an unknown number, just as I expected. Speak, I said curtly. I was in my car, parked in the underground garage of an office building far from my own. Mrs. Sterling, it's Frank. How can I help you? His voice was neutral and professional. I want you to investigate two people. My husband, Jack Sterling, and a woman named Victoria Beaumont. I got straight to the point. I want to know everything about them. Everything. When did this relationship start? Where do they meet? Their daily schedules. But there's something more important, Frank. I want you to follow the money. I paused, making sure no one was nearby. Jack runs one of my subsidiary companies. I suspect he's embezzling company funds. I also suspect he's funneling that money into the business of Victoria's son, Matthew Beaumont. The company's name is Synergy Startups. I heard soft typing on the other end of the line. I'll need initial data, full names, account numbers you know of, office addresses, company details, Frank said. I'm sending them to your secure email now, I said, along with initial proof. I sent an encrypted email I had prepared since dawn. The content was all the personal data I could find on Jack, Victoria, and Matthew, the details of the company accounts Jack managed, and of course the video and photos from the department store. Received, Frank said after a moment. It's clear. How long will you need? I asked. For the money trail and proof of embezzlement, if it exists, I'll need 3 business days. For the behavioral patterns, I can give you daily reports. I'll deploy a team to tail them both. Good, do it, I said. I'll pay you double your usual rate. I want this fast, precise, and undetectable. Understood, ma'am. I'm on it. The call ended. The machinery of investigation had started. Now, it was my turn to act. The next few days were a frozen hell. I had to live my life as if nothing had happened. I attended business meetings, smiled at clients, gave instructions to employees. At home, I was the perfect wife. I still laid out Jack's clothes. I still asked about his day. He, on the other hand, seemed increasingly busy, always coming home late with the excuse of those investors. He didn't realize I knew about his lies. Chloe called me almost every day, frantic about small wedding details. Isabella, do you think lilies are better than white roses? Oh, Isabella, Mrs. Beaumont wants us to use a different wedding planner. What do I do? Calm down, Chloe. Do what you want. It's your event, I would say patiently, though inside I wanted to scream. I even had to do a video call with Victoria to discuss the event arrangements. Her voice on the call was arrogant and controlling. She treated me like a secretary, not a future in-law. Isabella, make sure the wine served is from a 90 seconds vintage. The guests have refined tastes, she said with a condescending tone. Of course, Mrs. Beaumont. I'll make sure of it, I replied neutrally. Enjoy it while you can, I thought. On the 3rd day, Frank's first report arrived. I read it on my tablet inside my locked office. My heart pounded. Frank had confirmed everything. Their relationship had been going on for 11 months, since the first month Chloe and Matthew officially started dating. They met at least 3 times a week, in a luxury apartment rented under Jack's company name, in hotel business suites, in VIP lounges. And the worst part, the money. Frank and his team of forensic accountants found the trail. Jack had created a series of fake invoices, marketing consulting fees, market research costs, VIP client entertainment expenses totaling $3 million over the last 6 months. And the money didn't go directly to Victoria's account. That would have been too stupid even for Jack. The money, as I suspected, went to Matthew's business, but not directly. Jack transferred the money to a shell company in Singapore. That shell company then injected the funds into Synergy startups. It looked like a venture capital investment. Matthew probably didn't know. The boy seemed pure and naive. He probably just knew his brilliant mother had found him a foreign investor. But Victoria definitely knew. Jack couldn't have come up with a scheme this complex alone. It was clearly Victoria's idea. She used my husband, used his position to steal money from my company, to fund her own son's business. They weren't just an adulterous couple, they were partners in fraud. The pain in my heart now mixed with a burning fury. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had robbed me. This was the proof I needed. This wasn't just a matter of infidelity, this was a criminal act of corporate embezzlement. I wasn't going to hand it over to the police. That would be too messy and would also damage my own company's reputation. I had a more elegant, more painful way. I would take everything away. The next morning, I didn't go to the office. I went to my private banker, Mrs. Davis, a middle-aged woman who had managed my finances since my first success. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," I greeted her, sitting in her plush, quiet office. "Good morning, Mrs. Sterling. What can I do for you?" "You've come without an appointment," she said kindly. "I want to restructure my assets," I said in the businesslike tone I always used. I immediately explained my plan. I wanted to move all my liquid assets, cash, funds, deposits from the joint accounts, which, although in my name, Jack had access to, into my main holding company's account, of which I was the 100% sole owner. Then, I wanted to sell all the stock portfolios we held jointly. The proceeds from the sale would also go into the holding company account. Mrs. Davis raised an eyebrow. It was a large-scale movement of funds. This is a rather drastic measure, Mrs. Sterling. Is there a problem? It's a tax matter, Mrs. Davis. I lied smoothly. My accountant recommended this for year-end tax efficiency. It's too risky to keep personal and business assets in the same basket. Mrs. Davis nodded. The reason was plausible. Understood, ma'am. I'll prepare the documents. What should we do with the operating account of the subsidiary Mr. Sterling manages? Should we freeze it as well? I thought for a moment. No, I said. Don't freeze it. Keep it active, Mrs. Davis looked confused, but I continued. I want to withdraw almost all the funds, leave only a minimum balance for basic monthly operations just for employee salaries and the utility bills, nothing else. I gave a faint smile. And I want to receive an instant notification on my phone for every single transaction that leaves that account, no matter the amount. Mrs. Davis now understood. She asked no more questions. She was a professional. I will execute this immediately, Mrs. Sterling. Within 24 hours, all your assets will be secure. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. I left the bank feeling a strange lightness. I had just secured my fortress. I had just emptied the treasure chest Jack used to fund his betrayal. I checked the house deeds. Just as I remembered, this house was bought and paid for in full by my own sweat and tears long before I married Jack. His name was on some utility bills, but the property deed only listed my name, Isabella Sterling. He had nothing. The company he ran was mine. The house he lived in was mine. The luxury car he drove was a company asset. The bank account he used for his luxuries had just been completely emptied by me. My husband, Jack, was now a bankrupt man. He just didn't know it yet. And I let it be. I let him and Victoria enjoy their remaining days. I let them busy themselves preparing a lavish engagement party for their children. I even sent a large, expensive pot of orchids to Victoria's house as a token of friendship between future in-laws. Let them laugh. Let them feel victorious. I would wait until the engagement day, the day all their prestigious families gathered, the day they shone the brightest, and at that exact moment, I would turn off the lights. The exclusive, high-end restaurant on the Upper East Side was the kind of place that didn't advertise its name on the entrance. It was an open secret among New York's elite. To book one of its private rooms, you had to be a member, or at least known by the owner. Victoria, of course, chose this place. We arrived separately. Jack and I arrived with Chloe. Matthew and Victoria were already waiting inside. When we entered the private room, with its dark wood paneling, dim lighting, and a perfectly set long table, Victoria stood up to greet us. She was the definition of a well-preserved, middle-aged socialite. Her body was wrapped in an emerald green dress that I guessed cost a year's salary of one of my employees. Her brunette hair was swept up in a flawless chignon, and the diamond earrings in her ears caught the light. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were cold, assessing. "Isabella, we finally meet," she greeted, her voice smooth as silk. She offered her cheek for a light, empty, cold air kiss. The scent of her perfume, a mix of expensive jasmine and tobacco, almost made me nauseous. It was the same scent I had vaguely detected on Jack's jacket weeks ago. "I'm delighted to meet you in person, Mrs. Beaumont," I replied, my voice as friendly as I could make it. I smiled back, my best fake smile. "My apologies. My schedule has been incredibly hectic lately." "Ah, of course," she said with a slight tone of disdain. "Your little business must take up a lot of your time." I just smiled. "My little business, the one that's paying for your lover's lifestyle right now and funding yours too. Jack, you look radiant." Victoria turned to my husband, addressing him like she was asking her secret lover right in front of me. "You too, Victoria." "Always stunning," Jack replied. My stomach churned, the way they used each other's first names, not even trying to hide it in front of me. They thought I was too stupid, too naive. Jack sat across from me, next to Victoria. I sat between Chloe and Matthew. A perfect landscape. I could see them both clearly. Chloe and Matthew, on the other hand, looked so happy. A pair of young lovers. They didn't know a shark was swimming under their table. They were busy discussing their honeymoon plans, laughing and exchanging glances. "So, Matthew," I started the conversation, diverting my attention from the two con artists in front of me. "How's your startup going? I heard you received a huge injection of funding. Congratulations." Matthew's face lit up instantly. "Yes, Isabella, thank you, thank God." Suddenly, a venture capital firm from Singapore got interested. My mother handled everything. He smiled proudly at his mother. "Oh, of course," Victoria interjected, waving her hand elegantly. "It's all about connections in this world. That's what matters. Matthew is a brilliant boy, but brilliance isn't enough without the right doors." She looked at me. "You would understand, Isabella. Running a business is tough, especially a small one." Again, that veiled insult. I took a sip of my water. "You're right, connections are everything. But maintaining the trust of those connections is even more important, isn't it, Jack?" I looked directly at my husband. Jack, who was about to drink his water, almost choked. He coughed quietly, trying to cover it with his napkin. Yes, of course, trust," he said, his voice a little hoarse. Victoria watched me. Her eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second. She was sizing me up. The main course was served foie gras. I played with it with my fork. I had suddenly lost my appetite. "I heard from Jack that you have a big expansion project at your company," Victoria asked Jack. The tone was not of a woman asking her secret lover in front of his wife, but of a business partner. "Yes," Jack regained his composure and cleared his throat. "We're looking for new investors. The potential is very good. It'll be a big leap." "New investors." The same old theater. "And what about you, Mrs. Beaumont?" I asked, filling my voice with fake admiration. "I'm truly impressed. Raising Matthew to be so successful, all by yourself, running your own affairs. Your connections are so vast. It must be very difficult." Victoria beamed. This time, her smile was genuine. She loved being praised. "Oh, it's nothing," she said. "Anything for Matthew." "No." I leaned forward a bit. "I mean it, ma'am. You're an extraordinary woman. Being able to maintain so many things while raising Matthew." I stressed the word maintain softly, almost imperceptibly. But it was enough. Enough for the fork in Jack's hand to clatter silently against his plate. Enough for the smile on Victoria's face to freeze. There was a silence. Even Chloe and Matthew, who had been chatting animatedly, felt the shift in the room's temperature. They stopped talking and looked at us. "Maintain what, Isabella?" Chloe asked, confused. I laughed lightly, breaking the tension. "Maintain her looks, of course. Look, at her age, Mrs. Beaumont still looks like Matthew's older sister. Maintaining a reputation, maintaining business, right, ma'am?" I, who am younger, sometimes feel overwhelmed. Victoria shot me a sharp look. She knew I wasn't talking about appearances. She forced a dry laugh. "What a thing to say, Isabella. There are no secrets, just discipline and investment." "Investing in oneself, right, Victoria?" "Like healthcare," Jack quickly added, trying to change the subject. "Exactly," I said, smiling sweetly at my husband. "Investment is important. You have to choose carefully where you invest. Make sure the investment isn't fraudulent or embezzled by others." This time, Victoria choked on her water. She coughed a little. "Are you okay, Mom?" Matthew asked, concerned, patting her back. "I'm fine, Son," Victoria said. Her voice choked. She glared at me with fury behind her forced smile. It just went down the wrong pipe. The dinner continued in a tense atmosphere. Jack and Victoria became quieter. They didn't interact much anymore. Jack busied himself asking Matthew about the technical aspects of his startup. Victoria, on the other hand, was absorbed in her phone. I, on the contrary, became very cheerful. I talked to Chloe about the wedding dress. I praised Matthew's intelligence. I played my role as the perfect sister-in-law and future co-mother-in-law to perfection. When we finally stood up to say goodbye, Victoria hugged me again. "See you at the engagement party, Isabella," she whispered in my ear. Her hug felt tight like a snake's. "I hope there are no unpleasant surprises." "Of course," I whispered back, my smile still in place. "I'm looking forward to it, too. It's going to be an unforgettable event." In the car on the way home, Jack was silent for 1,000 words. Usually, he would put on music or talk about the traffic. Tonight, he just focused on driving. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. "Is something wrong, honey?" I asked softly, feigning concern. "You seem tense. The investors are causing problems again?" He turned to look at me. Under the dim light of the street lamps, I could see a thin sheen of sweat on his temples. "Isabella," he said, "earlier, when you told Victoria she was maintaining so many things, what did you mean?" I pretended to think. I meant what I said. Maintaining her looks, maintaining her business. Why, did I say something wrong? He stared at me for a long time, trying to find something in my eyes. A lie, an accusation. I just looked back at him with an innocent, confused expression. Finally, he sighed and turned his focus back to the road. "Ah, no, forget it. I must be tired." "You sure are," I said, stroking his arm. "You work too hard." He gently pulled his hand away with the excuse that he needed to change gears. I took my hand back and leaned back in my seat. I smiled in the darkness. He was scared. He was paranoid. Good. The game had just begun. 2 days after that tense dinner, I dedicated the entire day to the next phase of my plan. I worked from home with the excuse that I had to meet deadlines for quarterly reports and locked myself in my office. On the flawless mahogany desk in front of me lay all the ammunition Frank and his team had gathered. Everything was neatly printed and filed in separate folders. Frank's report was comprehensive. There were surveillance photos of Jack and Victoria entering the lobby of the apartment they had rented. There were photos of them having dinner at other private restaurants. This time, they were much more intimate, holding hands across the table. The department store photos I had taken were also now printed in high quality. And then there was the financial part. This was the masterpiece. Frank had created a simple but deadly flowchart. First box, J. Sterling Enterprises, my subsidiary that Jack ran. Outgoing Arrow, a fund flow of $3 million. Second box, a series of fake invoices. Strategic Consulting Services, Asia Pacific. Third box, a shell company in Singapore, Vantage Capital, Pta Limited. Outgoing Arrow from Vantage Capital, a fund flow of $2.9 million after deducting a phantom management fee. Fourth box, Matthews Company, Synergy Startups. Description, seed investment, series a premium. Everything was there. Account numbers, transaction dates, copies of the forged contracts signed by Jack, copies of the investment agreement between Vantage Capital and Matthews Company. Jack had used the company's digital signature I had granted him to approve all of this. He was stupid, overconfident. He never thought I would check in such detail. He thought I was too busy with my little business. Victoria, on the other hand, was very cunning. Her name didn't appear on any of these documents. Legally, she was clean. Morally, she was the mastermind. I looked at the pile of papers. Matthew. That boy was the key. I felt a pang of doubt. I felt sorry for him. He genuinely loved Chloe. He was proud of his business. He adored his mother. This gift I was about to give him would destroy all 3 of those illusions at once. He would find out that his fiancée was the sister of the man sleeping with his mother. He would find out that the business he was so proud of was built on stolen money. He would find out that his mother was a con artist and a mistress. It was cruel. I knew that. But it was necessary. Chloe didn't deserve to marry the son of the con artist who destroyed her family. Chloe needed to be saved from this family. And Victoria had to be destroyed by the person she loved most. Financial and social ruin wasn't enough for her. She had to lose her son's respect. That was the fitting punishment. Matthew was a victim. But in war, there are always innocent casualties. I made my decision. I wouldn't send him everything. I wouldn't send the intimate photos. Not yet. That was too visceral. It would make him emotional. He would probably confront his mother immediately, and the cunning Victoria might be able to twist the facts. She would say, I doctored the photos out of jealousy. I had to attack his logic first. Matthew was a startup entrepreneur. He understood numbers. I selected the financial documents, the flowchart Frank created, the copies of the fake invoices from Jack's company, and the copy of the investment agreement from Vantage Capital to Matthew's company. Those two documents placed side by side said it all. Jack's name was on the outgoing invoice. Matthew's company name was on the incoming investment agreement. And that shell company in Singapore was on both documents as the intermediary. Matthew was smart enough to connect the dots. He would realize his mysterious investor was his future brother-in-law, illegally funneling money from his other future sister-in-law's company. I thought of this as a logic bomb. It would plant a lethal seed of doubt. I put the documents in a large, plain manila envelope. No return address, no note, just the cold, hard documents. Next, the delivery. I called Frank on my burner phone. "Frank, I need a package delivered to Matthew Beaumont's office at Synergy Startups. It needs to be in his hands today. His hands only, not his secretaries or assistants." "That can be arranged, ma'am," Frank said. "One of my men is watching him in his office lobby. He's in a meeting." "Good. I'll leave the package at the front desk of my building's lobby in 30 minutes, under the name For Mr. Frank's Guest. Pick it up in 30 minutes. I wouldn't use a regular courier service. I would use one of Frank's men. Cash payment, no digital trail." I left the envelope at the lobby, exactly as I said. 15 minutes later, when I checked my office security cameras connected to the lobby, a stranger in a delivery jacket, but who didn't take off his helmet, picked it up and left immediately. Now, I waited. That was the hardest part, waiting for the fuse to burn. Matthew's head was throbbing. The meeting with his development team had been long. Their app had hit a major bug just before launch. He rubbed his temples and walked back to his simple desk in the corner of their open-plan office. "Mr. Beaumont," his secretary said. "A courier dropped this off earlier. He said it was highly personal and to be given directly to you." Matthew frowned. A large, thick manila envelope, no return address. "Who's it from?" he asked. The courier didn't say. "Sir, just asked for a receipt," the secretary said. Matthew took the envelope, intrigued. Maybe it was tender documents from a new client. He tore it open. Inside there was no cover letter, just a stack of papers. The first page was a flowchart. He read it. J. Sterling Enterprises, the name of his future brother-in-law, Jack. Vantage Capital. Synergy Startups, his company. His heart started to pound. He looked at the next pages. Fake invoices for consulting services for millions of dollars signed by Jack. Then he saw the investment agreement document from Vantage Capital, Pte. Limited, investing in his company. He compared the two documents. The name of that intermediary company in Singapore was exactly the same. Matthew felt sick. He opened his laptop with slightly trembling hands. He Googled J. Sterling Enterprises. The first result, a subsidiary of the Sterling Group. The Sterling Group, owned by Isabella Sterling. He felt the blood drain from his face. It couldn't be, the investor his mother was so proud of. The venture capital that allowed his company to hire the best talent. The money he had used to build his dream was stolen money, embezzled by Jack from his own wife's company. "What have you done, Mom?" he whispered to himself. He remembered how easily his mother had gotten that investor. "Leave it to me, son. I have connections," his mother had said. Then he remembered how strange Jack was at dinner a few days ago, how nervous his future brother-in-law was, how strange Isabella's words were. Matthew felt like the stupidest person in the world. He had worked day and night, proud of his achievements. It turns out he was just a pawn in his mother's and her secret lover's dirty game. Secret lover. The idea hit him hard. Jack, his mother. It was crazy. But why would Jack risk embezzling millions from his wife and giving it to Matthew's company? There was no business reason for it. If the reason wasn't business, then it was personal. Matthew looked at the pile of documents in front of him. He wasn't angry. He felt empty. His world, once bright and full of hope, suddenly turned dark and dirty. He didn't confront his mother. He didn't call Chloe. He folded the documents back up and put them in his briefcase. He had to think. He had to find out how deep this rot went. That afternoon, my burner phone buzzed. It was a message from Frank, package delivered directly to Target. He seemed very disturbed after reading it. Canceled all afternoon meetings and went back to his apartment. I just read the message. I didn't feel any victory, I just felt a chill. The fuse was lit. The time bomb was now in Matthew's hands. I just had to wait for Chloe's engagement day, the day all the secrets would explode. That day, the day of Chloe and Matthew's engagement party. Since early morning, our house was in a controlled chaos. Chloe had stayed over, and the makeup artist had arrived at dawn. I was running around, making sure everything was perfect. Chloe's dress hung elegantly. Breakfast was ready, and the limousine not really necessary, but something Victoria had insisted on was being decorated in front of the house. I had my makeup done too. I chose a simple but very elegant champagne-colored dress, classic in cut but made of the finest silk. I wanted to look perfect, serene, classy. I was the supportive sister-in-law. I was the loyal wife. That was the mask I was wearing today. Jack, on the other hand, looked nervous. He was impeccably dressed in the same custom-made suit as Matthew, but he couldn't stand still. He paced the living room, constantly checking his phone. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, fixing his tie as gently as possible. His hands were cold. "Nothing," he said quickly. Too quickly. "Just nervous for Chloe. It's a big event. Lots of important guests." "Important guests? Or new investors?" I whispered. He looked at me instantly. "What do you mean?" I laughed softly. "I mean important guests from those new investors might come. It's good for the company's image." "Why are you so tense?" He forced a smile. "Yeah, you're right. I just want everything to go smoothly." "It will," I assured him. "I've checked everything." In my mind, I knew he wasn't nervous for Chloe. He was nervous about his game with Victoria. He was nervous about the dinner a few days ago. He was afraid I knew something. "You don't know anything, Jack. You don't know what I'm about to serve tonight." The event was held in the grand ballroom of one of New York's most prestigious five-star hotels, the Plaza. Victoria didn't joke around with ostentation. The lobby was filled with imported flowers. Champagne flowed freely. The guests were faces I recognized from business magazines and society columns. Jack, Chloe, and I walked in. Chloe looked like a princess, pretty, nervous, but very happy. She didn't know anything. A pang of guilt shot through me for a moment. I was about to ruin her happy day, but I had to. It was better to be destroyed now than to live in a lie for a lifetime. Victoria and Matthew greeted us at the entrance. Victoria was radiant. She wore a tight-fitting, fire-engine red dress. Diamond and ruby jewelry adorned her neck and wrists. She was the queen of the night. She hugged Chloe and then me. "Isabella, you look lovely," she complimented, but her eyes looked at me, full of triumph. She thought she had won. She thought I was the stupid wife who knew nothing. "You are far more stunning, Mrs. Beaumont," I replied with a smile. "Red is definitely your color." Then I looked at Matthew. The boy was pale, very pale. He had slight dark circles under his eyes. He forced a smile when he shook our hands, but his eyes were empty. He avoided his mother's gaze and could barely look at Chloe. I knew the envelope had done its job. "Are you okay, Matthew?" I asked quietly while Chloe was busy greeting other guests. "You don't look well." Matthew looked at me. His eyes were a mixture of pain, confusion, and gratitude. He seemed to have realized where the envelope came from. "I'm just a little nervous, Isabella," he whispered. "Don't worry," I said, giving his arm a silent pat. "Everything will be fine. Everything will become clear tonight." He looked startled by my choice of words. But I quickly moved on to join other guests. Jack and Victoria, of course, stuck together immediately. Not physically, but they were always within 15 feet of each other. They laughed with guests. They introduced each other, acting like the heads of two prestigious families soon to be united by their children's marriage. They were the perfect host couple. I watched them from afar, sipping my drink. It was disgusting. They were so comfortable in their lies. The event began. The MC started with sweet words, speeches from family representatives. As Chloe's guardian, Jack went up on stage. He spoke eloquently about how much he loved his sister, how happy he was that Chloe had found a good man like Matthew, how honored his family was to join Victoria's prestigious family. I almost applauded his performance, a brilliant actor. And finally, it was time for Matthew and Chloe to exchange rings. They stood on a beautifully decorated small stage. The spotlights shone on them. Soft romantic music played. "Matthew," Chloe said, her voice trembling with emotion, "I promise to be your partner." Matthew slid the ring onto Chloe's finger. His hand was trembling slightly. Now it was Matthew's turn. He held the ring for Chloe. He looked at her. Then his eyes drifted to his mother sitting in the front row, looking at him with pride. Then his eyes drifted to Jack standing not far from his mother. Matthew was silent. The music stopped. The MC looked confused. "Matthew?" Chloe whispered, her smile starting to fade. Matthew swallowed hard. He looked like he was going to be sick. But finally, he slid the ring on. He did it. The audience applauded. Jack and Victoria smiled in relief. The MC took the mic again. "And now, as a special surprise from her dear sister-in-law, Isabella, let's watch a video dedication of love for the future bride and groom together." The lights in the ballroom dimmed. It was time. My heart was pounding so hard I thought the person next to me could hear it. The huge, nearly 30-foot wide projection screen behind the stage lit up. I had prepared this perfectly. I gave the wedding planner a USB drive this morning. I said it was a video of Chloe and Matthew's childhood memories that I had professionally edited. They happily accepted it. The video started exactly as I said, adorable childhood photos of Chloe, then photos of Matthew as a teenager, then photos of the two of them together. A sweet love song played in the background. Chloe looked emotional. She leaned on Matthew's shoulder. Matthew just stared at the screen, stiff. Victoria and Jack were smiling smugly. They thought this was a sincere dedication from me. The video was 3 minutes long. At 2 minutes and 50 seconds, as the song reached its climax, the screen suddenly filled with static. The audience murmured. The technician looked nervous. "Ah, apologies, folks. We seem to have a small technical issue," the MC said nervously. Then the screen lit up again. But what appeared was no longer the romantic photos of Chloe and Matthew. What appeared was a video recording taken from behind a pillar at a slightly low angle. The VIP lounge of a luxury department store. A man with a familiar back jack tenderly hugging a woman from behind. The audience fell silent. The romantic music from before had stopped. There was only silence. Then the woman turned. Her face was clearly caught by the camera. Victoria. Gasps were heard from some guests. Jack froze in his chair. The phone in his hand fell to the floor with a thud. Victoria. Her face, which was once glowing, was now white as a sheet. "What is this?" someone whispered at the next table. The screen didn't stop. The video replayed on a loop, Jack hugging Victoria. Then the screen changed. Now it was photos. The photos I had taken with my phone, clearer close-ups. A photo of Jack kissing Victoria's neck. A photo of Victoria holding Jack's hand on her chest with a triumphant smile. A photo of Jack whispering something in Victoria's ear. A photo of them laughing together. Underneath the screen, I had my video editor add a simple line of text in an elegant font. "Congratulations on the new investor, Jack. And congratulations on your connections, Victoria." That text was the final nail in their coffin. The entire ballroom fell instantly silent. 100% silent. You could hear a pin drop. All eyes, hundreds of pairs of eyes from business partners, high society friends, relatives were fixed on the two people whose photos were on the screen. Then all eyes turned to the stage. Matthew just stared at the screen. His face was expressionless, as if he had already lost all feeling. Chloe beside him took much longer to realize. She looked at the screen, frowning. She didn't understand. "That's Jack and Mrs. Beaumont." "What? What is this video, Isabella?" she asked innocently. Then she understood. She saw the picture of the kiss. She looked at Matthew. She looked at his mother in the front row. She looked at her brother. "No," Chloe whispered. "It can't be." She clutched her chest. Her breath caught in her throat. Her eyes widened in horror, and then, exactly as I had anticipated, she fainted. Her body crumpled to the stage floor. "Chloe!" Matthew shouted, finally snapping out of his stiffness and kneeling beside his fiancée. Chaos erupted. Following Chloe's collapse, the ballroom silence shattered. "Oh my God, Chloe. Call a doctor." What happened? What were those pictures? Guests began to stand, whisper, and point. The flustered technician finally managed to kill the projector. The screen went black, but the image of those photos was seared into everyone's mind. Jack was the first to move, but he didn't run to the stage to help his sister. He ran towards me. His face was red with fury, his eyes wild with rage and overwhelming humiliation. "Isabella," he yelled, "what have you done? Are you insane?" He grabbed my arm, his nails digging into my skin. I looked at him coldly. I felt no pain. "Let go of me, Jack. You've ruined everything. You've ruined our family. You even ruined your own sister," he screamed, his voice trembling. I laughed. A dry, quiet laugh. "I ruined it? Or you? The one who slept with his future in-law? The one who stole money from my company to fund that woman?" "Stole?" He was speechless. "You knew about the money?" "I know everything," I whispered. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Victoria was playing her part. She rushed to the stage, not to help Chloe, but to snatch the microphone from the bewildered MC. "Everyone, please, calm down," Victoria shouted, her voice loud and frantic. This is a misunderstanding. It's slander. Those photos are doctored. They're not real." She looked out at the crowd of guests, her face pleading. "This is the work of my business rivals. Or that woman," her finger pointed directly at me. "Isabella, she was jealous of our happiness, jealous of our families joining." The guests turned to look at me. I was now the center of attention, still held in Jack's grip. "Mom." A thunderous voice cut through Victoria's self-defense. It was Matthew. He was standing now. Chloe was being tended to by a few relatives who had brought her down from the stage. Matthew now stood alone on the stage, facing his mother. "Stop it, Mom," Matthew said. His voice was low, but it carried clearly across the silent room. "Matthew, son, you have to believe me. It's all lies." Victoria tried to approach him. "Lies?" Matthew laughed, a laugh more painful than a cry. "What's a lie, Mom? The pictures, or this?" Matthew reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was Frank's flowchart. He unfolded it. "Is this a lie too? You said you had connections, an investor from Singapore. But what's the truth? The investor is Jack, my future brother-in-law." The room fell silent again. This was the second bomb. Victoria froze. Jack released my arm. He looked at Matthew in terror. "He," Matthew pointed at Jack, "stole $3 million from his wife's company from Isabella's company. He funneled the money through a shell company and gave it to me." Matthew crumpled the paper. "I built my business. I was so damn proud. Turns out, I built it on stolen money, on Isabella's sweat and blood, stolen by my mother and her secret lover." "Matthew, watch your words," Victoria screamed, her pride wounded. "Watch my words? I am done with all this hypocrisy. I'm done with your lifestyle. I'm done watching you manipulate everyone." He looked at his mother with an expression I had never seen before, a look of deep hatred and disappointment. "You're disgusting," he said. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled the engagement ring from his pocket, the one he had just placed on Chloe's finger. He threw it, not at Chloe but at his mother's face. Thwack. The ring hit Victoria's cheek. "I don't want to be part of this family," Matthew said. He looked over at Chloe, who had just regained consciousness and was sitting in a chair beside the stage. "I'm sorry, Chloe. You deserve better than this." "And you," Matthew glared at Jack, "you're a coward." With that, Matthew turned, walked down the stage steps, and strode straight through the crowd, which parted for him. He walked out of the ballroom and didn't look back. The engagement party was officially over. Victoria stood paralyzed on the stage, holding the cheek where the ring had struck her. Her makeup was starting to streak. She looked old now, defeated and humiliated in front of hundreds of pairs of eyes that stared at her with a mixture of pity and disgust. Jack, beside me, was broken. He had lost everything in an instant. His reputation, his sister, his wife, his money. He looked at me. There was no more anger in his eyes, only despair. "Isabella," he whispered, "please, don't." I looked at him for a long moment, then I turned my back on him. I walked through the whispering guests, towards the exit where Matthew had just disappeared. I didn't need to say anything more. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to curse. My work here was done. I left them both in that ballroom, Jack and Victoria, two con artists who now had to face the wreckage of their own making in the middle of the lavish party they had designed to celebrate their victory. Ironically, as I walked out of the ballroom and into the silent hotel lobby, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe a sigh of relief. I got home. There was no sense of victory, no euphoria, just an overwhelming bone-deep exhaustion. The adrenaline that had held me up, that had allowed me to stand tall and smile through the storm, had now receded, leaving an empty beach behind. The townhouse felt too big, too quiet, a contrast to the chaos, the shouting, and the hundreds of stairs at the hotel. I dropped my purse on the table. I kicked off my heels, feeling the relief of my feet on the cool marble floor. I walked to the master bathroom. I didn't turn on the light, letting only the moonlight stream in through the window. I looked at myself in the large mirror. My makeup was still perfect. The champagne dress still looked elegant. My mask was still in place. Slowly, I took it all off. I wiped away the lipstick I had used to smile falsely at Victoria. I removed the eyeliner that had made my eyes look cold and serene. I washed my face, scrubbing as if I could clean away all the filth that had clung to me over the past few weeks. I stepped into the hot shower. I let the water run over me for a long time, as if it could wash away the traces of expensive perfume, the remnants of the party, and the residue of betrayal. I wanted to feel clean. I wanted to feel like myself again. After the shower, I changed into my most comfortable loungewear, a loose cotton t-shirt and pajama pants. I didn't dry my hair, letting it hang wet down my back. I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of chamomile tea. Then I sat on the living room sofa. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't play any music. I just sat in the dark, waiting. I knew he would come. He had nowhere else to go. The wall clock ticked. The night deepened into early morning. At 3:30 a.m., I heard the sound of his car. The engine sounded hesitant as it pulled into the garage. Then, silence. He must have been sitting in the car for several minutes, gathering courage. Finally, I heard the key in the front door. The door opened slowly. Jack walked in. He looked 1,000 times worse than when I left him at the hotel. His expensive suit was now wrinkled. His tie was loose, his shirt untucked, and his eyes were red and swollen. He was swaying slightly. The smell of alcohol was strong, even from across the room. He must have stopped at a bar first. He saw me sitting in the darkness, my silhouette like a judge awaiting him. Isabella. His voice was hoarse. He wasn't angry anymore. His rage had been replaced by total defeat. He walked slowly towards me, his steps heavy. Then, about 3 feet away from me, it was as if his legs could no longer support him. He collapsed. He fell to his knees on the expensive Persian rug. "I'm sorry, Isabella," he whispered. "Please, forgive me." He tried to take my hand. I pulled it away. "I was wrong. I was an idiot," he said, tears starting to stream down his cheeks. They weren't fake tears. They were tears of remorse, or perhaps fear. "It was all Victoria's fault," he said. And here the drama began. "She seduced me, Isabella. She kept coming on to me. The money idea was hers. She said it would just be a loan. She said you were too busy to notice." I listened in silence. "She set me up," he sobbed. "You know I'm weak. I'm easily influenced, but believe me, Isabella, I love you. My love is only for you." I almost laughed. How cliché. "I'll fix everything," he said, his voice growing more desperate. "I'll leave her. I swear. I'll pay back the money. I'll kneel at Chloe's feet. I'll do anything. Please, Isabella, don't leave me. I can't live without you." He crawled forward, trying to hug my knees. That's when I finally spoke. My voice was calm, cold as ice. "Are you finished?" Jack looked up, startled by my emotionless voice. "Isabella." I stood up. I walked past him as if he wasn't there. I turned on a floor lamp on a corner table. The room was now slightly brighter, enough to see the ruin on his face. "You said you'd pay back the money?" I asked, my back to him. "How? You don't have a penny." "I'll work. I'll find a way." "Where will you work, Jack?" I cut him off, my voice still as calm as ever. I turned to face him. "That company is mine, and you are officially fired. Your termination letter has been sitting on your desk for 3 days." His face went from pleading to waxen white. "What? And you said you couldn't live without me." "You're mistaken," I said. "You can't live without my money." I walked to the coffee table. On it was a thick manila folder I had prepared since the afternoon. I picked it up. "I'm not interested in your drama," I said. "I don't care who seduced whom. You're a grown man. You made your choices." I threw the folder on the floor right in front of him, and this is my decision. His hands trembled violently as he picked up the folder. He opened it. He pulled out the contents. First page, divorce papers. Swift, non-negotiable, filed on grounds of adultery and fraud. Second page, a bundle of evidence copies the department store photos, a copy of the video, and most damningly, the flowchart of the $3 million with copies of the fake invoices he signed. Third page, a copy of our prenuptial agreement. The agreement that clearly stated that all assets, companies, and properties I owned before and during the marriage were 100% mine. The agreement he had signed 10 years ago with a smile, thinking it was a silly formality from his overly business-minded wife. He stared at the documents. Then he looked at me with terror-filled eyes. "You planned all this?" he whispered. "I planned it from the moment I saw you holding her in the department store," I replied. "What did you think I was, Jack? A stupid woman who would make a scene, cry, and beg you to come back? You underestimated me." But Chloe, my family," he tried to grasp for a lifeline. "Chloe will be fine," I said. "She'll be sad, but she'll recover. She'll build her own life far from your family's lies. In fact, I've saved her." Jack crumbled. He was no longer kneeling. He sat on the floor, leaning against the leg of the sofa. His gaze was empty. "Where will I go?" he asked quietly, the voice of a lost child. "Not my problem anymore," I said. I pointed towards our bedroom. "No, more accurately, my bedroom. Pack your bags. Just your clothes. I've already called a cab. It should be waiting outside. Isabella, please, just for tonight. Let me sleep in the guest room." "No," I said firmly. "I don't want to share the air in my house with you for one more second." He looked at me, searching for any trace of compassion, any remnant of love, any memory of 10 years of marriage. He found nothing. He only found steel. "This house," I said slowly, so he would understand, "is in my name. The car you drive every day is a company asset. All company credit cards in your name have already been blocked since I took over the accounts." He stammered. You've taken everything from me." "I haven't taken anything from you, Jack," I corrected. "I've simply taken back what was mine. You came to me with nothing 10 years ago, and you'll leave the same way tonight." I crossed my arms. "You have 24 hours to sign those divorce papers. Take them to my lawyer's office tomorrow morning." "Or else?" he asked weakly. "Or else," I pointed to the folder in his hands, "that second bundle of evidence will go straight to the district attorney's office. Embezzlement of $3 million in company funds. The evidence is solid. You'll go to prison immediately, Jack. For years." I gave him a slight smile, my first real smile of the night. "The choice is yours. Leave quietly as a poor but free man, or leave with a bang and become an inmate." That was the final blow. He trembled violently. He knew he had lost on all fronts. With the last of his strength, he staggered to his feet. He no longer dared to look at me. He trudged towards the bedroom. I heard the sound of closet doors opening, the zipping of suitcases. No more crying, just the sound of a resigned man packing. 10 minutes later, he came out with one large suitcase and a backpack. He looked like an expensive homeless person. He walked to the front door, his hand already on the knob. "One more thing," I said. He stopped, but didn't dare turn around. "You still owe me $3 million. I won't forget it. Consider it a personal debt, and I will claim it until you pay me back." He didn't reply. He opened the door and walked out, disappearing into the dark night. The door clicked shut softly. I was alone in my big, silent house. I walked to the window and watched as that taxi turned on its headlights and drove away, taking 10 years of my marriage with it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. I just felt an emptiness. This chapter was over, and tomorrow I would have to start a new one. 1 year later. The scenery was different. No more New York skyscrapers or air-conditioned boardrooms. The landscape in front of me was the endless blue of the Atlantic Ocean. I was in the Hamptons, in a private villa I had built on a cliff in Montauk. The architecture was open, with a prevalence of natural wood and stone. There were no walls to block the sea breeze. This was my place of retreat and work at the same time. I was lounging comfortably on a chaise by the edge of the infinity pool. I was no longer wearing stiff business attire, but a thin white linen caftan that billowed in the wind. My hair was longer, loose, and healthier than before. My skin was slightly tan. I looked younger, more serene. On the small table beside me was a glass of coconut water and my work tablet. My business? After firing Jack, I did a major restructuring. I eliminated the inefficient departments he managed. I sold that subsidiary and invested the funds in a new sector: green technology and sustainable real estate. The Sterling Group grew twice as fast. I now delegated more tasks and managed everything remotely. I had just finished a video call with Chloe. Our relationship took time to heal. At first, she was devastated. She was angry at me for publicly humiliating her family. She was angry at Jack. She was angry at the world. She cut off contact with everyone. But time healed. 6 months ago, she contacted me. She said she had moved to Singapore. She had started a new life, taking an interior design course. She apologized for blaming me. The video call just now was cheerful. She showed me her small but chic new apartment. She talked about her first project. "Isabella," she said at the end of the call, her smile genuine, "thank you. I really hated you before. I thought you were the villain. But now I realize you saved me. I don't know what would have become of me if I had married into that family of con artists." "You saved yourself, Chloe," I said softly. "You chose to get back up. I'm proud of you." The call ended. I smiled. At least something good came out of that whole mess. I put down my phone and picked up my tablet. I intended to read the global business news, but my eyes were drawn to an article in a gossip column, page 6, known for its scathing commentary and paparazzi photos. The headline was sensational: "Disgraced socialite in downward spiral, brawls with personal driver in Queens Market, allegedly in debt to loan sharks." Out of curiosity, I clicked on it. The article was short, but the photo said it all. The picture was taken from across the street and was blurry, but the figure was unmistakable. The background was a crowded, grimy outdoor market, piles of vegetables and flies in the background. There, in the middle of the crowd, was Victoria. But not the Victoria I knew, not the elegant woman in an emerald green dress. This was an old, tired woman. Her once beautiful blonde hair was now frizzy, with gray roots showing, and tied up messily. She was wearing faded floral pajamas. She was thin, but her face was puffy. She was screaming, her mouth wide open, one hand grabbing a man's hair. And that man was Jack. He was no longer in an expensive suit. He was wearing a light blue shirt uniform, stained with sweat. A driver's uniform. His once firm body now had a potbelly. His face was covered in a scruffy beard. He was struggling to free himself from Victoria's grip, his face contorted in pain and overwhelming humiliation. The article explained the rest. After the engagement scandal, Victoria's reputation was shattered. Her high society friends shunned her. Her business, which relied heavily on connections and image, went bankrupt within months. Her son Matthew refused to see her again. It was rumored he had moved to Canada and changed his last name. Victoria sold her luxurious townhouse, her cars, her handbag collection, her jewelry. But her extravagant lifestyle habits were hard to break. Within a year, she was in debt to loan sharks. And Jack? He signed the divorce papers the next day. He walked out of my life a poor man with a destroyed reputation. No company in New York would hire him. The scandal was too big. He tried several small businesses, but he had no talent. He was only good at spending my money. He declared bankruptcy. Ironically, the only person left in his world was Victoria, and vice versa. They were no longer together for love, they were together out of desperation. Jack, the once charismatic executive, now worked as Victoria's personal driver, chauffeuring her around in a beat-up rental car. He had become the servant of the woman he once worshipped. The photo, according to the article, was taken when they had a violent fight in the market. Victoria was berating Jack for not having enough money to pay the loan sharks. I looked at the photo for a long time. I saw the two people who had conspired to destroy me, the two people who had looked down on me. I saw Jack, who thought I was a boring wife, now trapped serving a cranky old woman. I saw Victoria, who had insulted me for being a small business owner, now having to brawl in a dirty market over grocery money. They got what they deserved. They were stuck with each other in poverty, in hatred, in an instant karma of their own making. The sound of the waves crashing against the cliff below sounded like quiet applause. I felt no anger, no vengeance, not even pity. I felt humor. A faint smile touched my lips. Then the smile widened. I laughed. Not a loud, mocking laugh, but a quiet, genuine laugh. A laugh of release. The laugh of someone who has just finished watching an absurd play. Karma was truly funny. I didn't need complicated revenge. I just had to let bad people live with each other. I put down the tablet, picked up my glass of coconut water, and took a sip. It tasted incredibly fresh. I looked out at the blue sea. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and purple. My real life had just begun.